Long before cities rose and civilizations flourished, prehistoric societies were quietly shaping the course of human history in ways that still echo today. These ancient communities, often overlooked in the grand narrative of progress, left behind a legacy of rituals and inventions that reveal their extraordinary ingenuity. From the tools they crafted to the ceremonies they performed, their actions were not just about survival, they were about understanding the world around them and leaving a mark for future generations. But what drove these early humans to create such intricate rituals, and how did their inventions lay the groundwork for the technologies we rely on today? In this journey through time, we'll uncover the forgotten stories of prehistoric societies, exploring the mysteries of their rituals and the brilliance of their innovations. Together, we'll piece together how these ancient practices and creations continue to shape our lives in ways we might not even realize. Let's step back in time and discover the roots of human creativity. Picture a world untouched by modern comforts, a vast, untamed landscape where early humans roamed, facing the raw forces of nature. Survival wasn't just a goal, it was a daily struggle against predators, harsh climates, and the unknown. Yet, in this unforgiving environment, something extraordinary began to take shape, the spark of human ingenuity. These early societies didn't just endure, they thrived by creating solutions to problems that seemed insurmountable. From the first stone tools chipped with precision to the mastery of fire, which transformed how they cooked food and protected themselves, each innovation was a step toward reshaping their world. But it wasn't just about survival. Rituals played a crucial role in bringing people together, creating a sense of unity and purpose. Imagine a group gathered around a fire, not just for warmth, but to share stories, honor their dead, or prepare for a hunt. Early burial practices, for instance, reveal more than just respect for the deceased. They hint at a growing awareness of life, death, and something beyond the immediate. Hunting ceremonies, too, were more than practical preparations. They were acts of reverence, connecting humans to the animals they relied on and the natural world they were part of. These rituals weren't random. They were deeply tied to the environments these societies inhabited. In colder climates, fire became a lifeline, while in arid regions, water sources dictated where communities settled and how they thrived. Adaptation wasn't just about physical tools, it was about understanding the rhythms of nature and finding meaning within them. This blend of practicality and symbolism laid the groundwork for something profound, a way of thinking that would eventually lead to more complex inventions and the societies we know today. As we explore these early innovations, it's impossible to ignore the deeper layers of meaning behind them. What started as simple tools and rituals soon became symbols of human resilience and creativity. These weren't just acts of survival, they were the first steps toward building a shared identity, one that would shape the course of history in ways we're only beginning to understand. Imagine the first time early humans harnessed fire, a moment that must have felt nothing short of miraculous. Here was a force that could light up the darkest night, chase away predators, and transform raw food into something nourishing and safe to eat. But fire was far more than just a tool for survival. It became a cornerstone of human culture, woven into the very fabric of prehistoric life. For these early societies, fire wasn't just a practical invention. It was a sacred symbol, a bridge between the physical and the spiritual, and a source of profound meaning. Archaeological discoveries give us glimpses into how fire was revered. In ancient settlements, hearths were often placed at the center of communal spaces, suggesting that fire wasn't just for warmth or cooking. It was a gathering point, a place where stories were shared, bonds were strengthened, and rituals were performed. These hearths weren't haphazardly built. They were carefully designed, sometimes lined with stones or adorned with carvings, indicating that fire held a special, almost ceremonial significance. Beyond its practical uses, fire became a powerful symbol of life and transformation. Think about it, fire consumes, but it also creates. It destroys old materials, yet it gives rise to new possibilities, like cooking food to make it edible or hardening tools to make them stronger. This duality likely resonated deeply with early humans, who saw in fire a reflection of their own struggles and triumphs. Rituals involving fire may have been used to mark significant moments, births, deaths, seasonal changes, or even celestial events. Lighting a fire could have been a way to honor the cycles of nature, celebrate victories, or seek protection from the unknown. One fascinating example comes from sites where charred remains of plants or animal bones have been found alongside evidence of fires. These findings suggest that fire was used not just for practical purposes but also in ceremonies, perhaps as offerings to spirits or ancestors. In some cases, fire may have been seen as a way to communicate with the divine, a flickering connection between the human and the mystical. But the story of fire doesn't end with its symbolic power. It was also the spark that ignited a series of revolutionary inventions. Once humans mastered fire, they unlocked new possibilities, from creating more durable tools to experimenting with materials like clay, which eventually led to pottery. Fire wasn't just a tool, it was a catalyst setting the stage for even greater leaps in innovation. And as we'll see, this was only the beginning of the extraordinary journey of prehistoric ingenuity. The story of human progress is in many ways the story of tools. Long before the age of metal or machinery, the first tools ever created were simple yet revolutionary, shaped from stone by hands that had no guide but their own ingenuity. These early implements, often overlooked in their simplicity, were far more than just rocks chipped into sharp edges. They were the foundation of everything that followed, the first steps toward mastering the world around us. To understand the birth of tools, we have to step back to a time when survival depended on resourcefulness. Early humans didn't just stumble upon sharp stones, they learned to create them. Using one rock to strike another, they carefully chipped away until they had a blade or a scraper. This process, known as flint knapping, required not just strength but precision, a skill that was honed over generations. Each strike had to be deliberate, each angle calculated, turning raw stone into a tool that could cut, scrape, or pierce. It was an art form as much as it was a survival technique. These tools transformed daily life in ways we can hardly imagine today. A sharp stone blade could cut through animal hide, making it possible to prepare food or create clothing. A hand axe could dig into the earth, helping to gather roots or build shelters. Even something as simple as a scraper could remove bark from wood or clean the flesh from a hide. These tools didn't just make life easier, they made it possible to thrive in environments that would have been impossible to navigate otherwise. But tool making wasn't just a practical endeavor. It was steeped in ritual and meaning. The selection of materials, for instance, was often a thoughtful process. Certain types of stone, like flint or obsidian, were prized for their sharp edges and durability. Gathering these materials could involve journeys to specific locations, sometimes far from home, suggesting that the act of choosing the right stone was as important as the tool itself. Passing down the techniques of tool making from one generation to the next was also a sacred tradition. Elders would teach the young how to strike a stone just right, ensuring that the knowledge and the tools it produced would endure. There's also evidence that these early tools held spiritual significance. In some cultures, the act of creating a tool was seen as a connection to the natural world, a way of transforming raw earth into something useful and meaningful. Tools might have been used in rituals, buried with the dead as offerings, or even imbued with symbolic power. A hand axe, for example, wasn't just a tool for cutting. It could have represented strength, protection, or even a link to ancestors who had wielded similar tools before. The impact of these early inventions can't be overstated. They didn't just change how early humans lived, they changed how they thought. With tools, humans gained a sense of control over their environment, a belief that they could shape the world to meet their needs. This mindset laid the groundwork for every technological leap that followed, from the invention of the wheel to the rise of agriculture and beyond. As we reflect on these humble beginnings, it's clear that the first tools were more than just objects. They were symbols of human potential, a testament to the creativity and resilience that define us as a species. And while the tools themselves have evolved, the spirit behind their creation remains the same, a drive to innovate, to adapt, and to leave a mark on the world. This journey from stone to innovation didn't end with sharp blades and axes. It was only the beginning of a much larger story, one that would see humans push the boundaries of what was possible again and again. And as we'll see, each new invention built on the lessons of the past, creating a legacy of ingenuity that continues to shape our lives today. Hunting was far more than a way to secure food in prehistoric societies. It was a profound act that intertwined survival with spirituality. For early humans, the hunt wasn't just about the physical act of tracking and killing prey. It was a sacred journey, a ritual that connected them to the natural world and to something greater than themselves. Every step of the process, from the preparation to the aftermath, was steeped in meaning, reflecting a deep respect for the animals they relied on and the cycles of life and death that governed their existence. Before setting out on a hunt, many prehistoric communities engaged in elaborate rituals designed to ensure success and honor the spirits of the animals they pursued. These rituals varied widely across cultures, but they often included dances, chants, or offerings. Imagine a group of hunters gathered at dawn, their bodies painted with symbols meant to invoke strength and protection, their voices rising in unison as they called upon the spirits of the forest. These practices weren't just superstitions, they were acts of reverence, a way of acknowledging the interconnectedness of all life. By performing these rituals, hunters sought to align themselves with the natural order, ensuring that their actions were in harmony with the world around them. The tools of the hunt also carried deep significance. Early hunting implements like spears or bows were crafted with care, each one a testament to the ingenuity and skill of its maker. Over time, these tools evolved, becoming more refined and effective. The development of the atlatl, or spear thrower, for example, allowed hunters to launch their weapons with greater force and accuracy, revolutionizing the way they pursued prey. But these tools weren't just functional, they were often adorned with carvings or symbols, imbuing them with spiritual power. A spear wasn't just a weapon, it was a sacred object, a bridge between the human and the animal worlds. The hunt itself was a delicate balance of skill, strategy, and respect. Success wasn't guaranteed, and failure could mean hunger or even death. This uncertainty made the rituals surrounding the hunt all the more important. After a successful hunt, many communities performed ceremonies to thank the animal for its sacrifice, ensuring that its spirit would return to the earth and renew the cycle of life. These rituals underscored a belief that nothing in nature was taken for granted. Every act of survival was part of a larger, sacred exchange. This deep connection between hunting and spirituality also shaped how prehistoric societies viewed their relationship with nature. They saw themselves not as separate from the natural world, but as integral parts of it. The hunt was a reminder of this bond, a way of participating in the rhythms of life and death that sustained them. It wasn't just about survival, it was about understanding their place in the world and honoring the delicate balance that kept it all in harmony. As we reflect on these ancient practices, it's clear that the rituals of the hunt were about more than food or tools, they were about meaning. They reveal a worldview in which every action, no matter how practical, was imbued with significance. And as we'll see, this way of thinking didn't just shape how early humans hunted. It influenced every aspect of their lives, from the way they built their communities to the stories they told around the fire. The hunt was just one thread in a much larger tapestry, one that wove together survival, spirituality, and the enduring human need to find purpose in the world. The way prehistoric societies treated their dead offers a fascinating window into their beliefs, values, and understanding of life itself. Burial rituals were far more than simple acts of laying bodies to rest. They were profound expressions of respect, love, and perhaps even hope. Across different cultures and time periods, early humans buried their dead with remarkable care, often including items like tools, ornaments, or food objects that suggest these rituals were deeply meaningful. But what drove these practices? What can they tell us about how early humans viewed life, death, and what might lie beyond? One striking aspect of prehistoric burials is the intentionality behind them. Bodies weren't simply discarded. They were placed in specific positions, often curled up as if in sleep, or laid out with arms crossed in a gesture of peace. Grave goods items buried alongside the deceased were carefully chosen. Tools might accompany a hunter, beads or jewelry might be placed with a child, and food offerings could be left to sustain the dead on their journey. These choices weren't random. They reflect a deep connection between the living and the dead, a belief that the deceased still had needs or could influence the world of the living. Archaeological discoveries have uncovered some of the most compelling evidence of these practices. In one notable site, a burial from tens of thousands of years ago revealed a skeleton surrounded by flowers, their pollen still preserved in the soil. This suggests that early humans didn't just bury their dead, they honored them with beauty and care. Another site uncovered the remains of a child buried with a necklace of animal teeth, each tooth painstakingly polished and strung together. These details hint at a society that valued its members deeply, even in death, and saw burial as an act of love and remembrance. But why go to such lengths? One theory is that these rituals were rooted in a belief in an afterlife, a concept that gave meaning to the cycle of life and death. By providing tools, food, or ornaments, the living might have been equipping their loved ones for a journey into another realm. Another possibility is that burial practices were a way to honor ancestors, creating a tangible link between past and present. In some cultures, ancestors were seen as protectors or guides, their spirits watching over the community. Burial rituals could have been a way to maintain that connection, ensuring that the wisdom and presence of those who came before were never forgotten. These practices also reveal something profound about early human societies, a sense of community and continuity. Burial sites often served as gathering places where the living could come together to mourn, remember, and reaffirm their bonds. Over time, these sites became more than just graves. They were landmarks, places imbued with memory and meaning. In this way, burial rituals weren't just about the dead. They were about the living, about creating a sense of identity and belonging that could endure across generations. As we piece together the evidence, it's clear that these ancient rituals were about more than just disposing of bodies. They were acts of storytelling, ways of preserving the memory of loved ones and passing down values to future generations. Through burial practices, early humans expressed their hopes, fears, and beliefs, leaving behind a legacy that continues to resonate today. These rituals remind us that even in the face of death, there is a profound human impulse to honor, remember, and find meaning, a connection that transcends time and culture. Deep within the hidden recesses of caves and etched into the surfaces of ancient rocks, prehistoric societies left behind some of the most enduring and enigmatic legacies of their time, their art. These creations, vivid cave paintings, intricate carvings, and sculpted figures, were far more than mere decorations. They were expressions of something deeper, forms of communication that bridged the gap between the physical and the spiritual, the individual and the collective. To understand these artworks is to glimpse into the minds of our ancestors, uncovering the ways they made sense of their world and their place within it. One of the most striking examples of prehistoric art can be found in the Lascaux caves of southern France. Discovered in 1940, these caves are a treasure trove of vibrant paintings depicting animals like bison, horses, and deer, rendered with astonishing detail and dynamism. The artists used natural pigments, ochre, charcoal, and manganese to create images that seem to leap off the walls, their colors still vivid after tens of thousands of years. But what was the purpose of these paintings? Were they simple records of daily life, or did they serve a deeper, more symbolic role? Many scholars believe that cave paintings like those at Lascaux were more than just depictions of the natural world. They may have been part of rituals, perhaps intended to ensure successful hunts or to honor the spirits of the animals they hunted. Some theories suggest that these images were a form of hunting magic, where creating a representation of prey was thought to give hunters power over it. Others propose that the paintings were used in storytelling, preserving myths or recounting significant events for future generations. Whatever their purpose, these artworks were clearly imbued with meaning, serving as a bridge between the tangible and the intangible. Beyond cave paintings, prehistoric art took many other forms. Carvings and sculptures, often created from bone, ivory, or stone, reveal a fascination with the human form and the natural world. The Venus figurines, for example, small statues depicting exaggerated female features, have sparked countless interpretations. Some see them as symbols of fertility or motherhood, while others suggest they may have been used in rituals related to health, abundance, or protection. These figurines, found across Europe and beyond, hint at shared beliefs or practices that connected distant communities. The creation of these artworks was itself a form of ritual. Imagine an artist working by the flickering light of a torch, carefully selecting materials and techniques to bring their vision to life. The act of creating art may have been a deeply spiritual experience, a way of connecting with forces beyond the everyday. And just as the creation was meaningful, so too was the act of viewing. In the dimly lit caves, surrounded by the echoes of ancient chants or drumbeats, these images would have come alive, evoking a sense of awe and wonder that transcended the ordinary. What's remarkable about prehistoric art is its universality. Despite the vast distances and differences between early human communities, art seems to have played a similar role across cultures. It was a way of expressing ideas, sharing knowledge, and forging connections not just between people, but between the human and the divine. These artworks weren't just for the living. They were messages to the past, the future, and the unseen forces that shaped their world. As we stand before these ancient creations today, it's impossible not to feel a sense of connection. The same hands that shaped these images once held tools, gathered food, and built fires, hands not so different from our own. Through their art, prehistoric societies found a way to communicate across time, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire and intrigue. These images remind us that art is more than a reflection of life. It's a way of making meaning, of finding beauty and purpose in the world around us. And as we'll see, this drive to create and connect would only grow stronger, shaping the course of human history in ways that continue to unfold. As the winds howled and the temperatures plummeted, early humans faced a challenge that went beyond survival. It was about adaptation. Clothing, one of the most ingenious inventions of prehistoric societies, didn't just shield them from the cold. It transformed how they lived, how they saw themselves, and how they connected with one another. What began as a necessity, a way to protect against the elements, soon became a canvas for creativity, a marker of identity, and even a part of sacred rituals. The story of clothing is a testament to human resilience and innovation, revealing how necessity can spark something extraordinary. the earliest clothing was born out of sheer practicality. In regions where winters were harsh, animal hides became the first line of defense. Imagine a hunter carefully skinning a deer, not just for its meat but for its hide, which could be stretched, dried, and fashioned into a warm, durable garment. These hides were more than just coverings, they were lifelines, allowing early humans to venture into colder climates and expand their territories. Over time, they developed techniques to soften the hides, using tools made of bone or stone to scrape away excess tissue and tan the leather, making it more flexible and comfortable to wear. But clothing wasn't limited to animal skins. In milder climates, prehistoric societies turned to plant fibers, weaving together strands of flax, hemp, or even bark to create lightweight garments. This early form of textile production required immense skill and patience. Fibers had to be harvested, processed, and spun into threads, which were then woven or knotted into fabric. These techniques, though labor-intensive, opened up new possibilities, allowing for clothing that was not only functional but also adaptable to different environments and needs. Yet clothing was never just about protection, it was also about expression. In many prehistoric communities, what you wore signaled who you were. Certain garments might indicate a person's role within the group, a hunter, a leader, or a healer. Adornments like beads, feathers, or shells sewn onto clothing could denote status or achievements, turning a simple tunic into a badge of honor. Clothing became a way to communicate, to tell stories without words, and to forge a sense of belonging within the community. Rituals also played a significant role in the creation and use of clothing. The process of making garments was often steeped in tradition, with each step, from preparing the materials to stitching the final piece, carrying symbolic meaning. In some cultures, clothing might be worn during ceremonies to honor the spirits of the animals whose hides were used, turning a practical item into a sacred object. Special garments like cloaks or headdresses could be reserved for rituals, marking important events or transitions, such as births, marriages, or deaths. What's remarkable is how these early innovations laid the groundwork for the clothing we wear today. The techniques developed by prehistoric societies, tanning hides, weaving fibers, adorning garments, evolved over millennia, shaping the way we think about fashion, identity, and even art. Clothing became more than a tool for survival. It became a reflection of human ingenuity, a way to adapt to the world while leaving a mark on it. As we trace the origins of clothing, it's clear that this invention was about more than just staying warm or dry. It was a way to connect with the environment, to express individuality, and to honor the cycles of life. From the earliest hides to the intricate textiles of later cultures, clothing tells a story of resilience, creativity, and the enduring human need to find meaning in the world around us. And as we'll see, this drive to innovate and adapt would only grow stronger, shaping the course of human history in ways that continue to unfold. For early humans, finding shelter was about more than just escaping the elements. It was about creating a space where life could flourish. At first, nature provided what they needed. Caves offered natural protection from wind, rain, and predators. These hollowed-out sanctuaries became the first homes, their walls often adorned with art or marked by the traces of fires that once warmed their inhabitants. But as time went on, something extraordinary happened. Humans began to move beyond what nature provided, using their ingenuity to build shelters of their own. This shift from caves to constructed dwellings marked a turning point in human history, one that would forever change how we live. The materials and methods used to build these early shelters were as varied as the environments they were created in. In forested areas, wood became a natural choice. Early builders would cut down trees, stripping the bark and shaping the logs to form sturdy frames. These structures were often covered with animal hides or woven mats, creating walls that could keep out the cold while still allowing air to flow. In regions where wood was scarce, stone and mud took center stage. Stones were carefully stacked to form walls, while mud, mixed with straw or grass, was used as a binding agent, creating a durable material known as wattle and daub. Over time, these techniques evolved, with some societies even developing ways to bake mud bricks, making them stronger and more resistant to weathering. But building a shelter wasn't just a physical task, it was a deeply symbolic act. Many prehistoric societies believed that the process of constructing a dwelling required more than just skill. It needed the blessing of the spirits. Before building began, rituals might be performed to ensure the site was favorable. Offerings, such as food or small objects, could be buried beneath the foundation as a way of seeking protection or prosperity for the home. The act of raising the first post or laying the first stone might be accompanied by chants or prayers, turning the construction into a communal event that brought people together. These rituals weren't just about appeasing unseen forces. They were about creating a sense of harmony between the home, its inhabitants, and the natural world. The shelters themselves were more than just places to sleep. They became the heart of community life. A well-built dwelling provided a safe space for families to gather, share meals, and tell stories. It was a place where children could grow, elders could pass down knowledge, and bonds could be strengthened. In larger settlements, these structures often formed the nucleus of the community, with homes clustered around shared spaces like fire pits or meeting areas. This sense of togetherness was crucial, fostering cooperation and mutual support in a world where survival often depended on collective effort. As shelters became more sophisticated, they also began to reflect the identities of the people who built them. The design of a home might vary depending on the climate, available resources, or cultural traditions. In colder regions, homes might be partially sunken into the ground to retain heat, while in warmer areas, raised platforms or open-air designs helped keep interiors cool. The way a home was decorated with carvings, paintings, or symbolic patterns could tell a story about the family who lived there, their beliefs, and their place within the community. This evolution from caves to constructed shelters was about more than just comfort or convenience. It was a testament to human creativity and adaptability, a way of transforming the raw materials of the earth into spaces that nurtured life. These early dwellings laid the foundation for the villages, towns, and cities that would follow, becoming the cornerstone of civilization itself. And as we'll see, this drive to build and create didn't stop with shelter. It set the stage for even greater innovations, shaping the world in ways that continue to resonate today. As the rhythms of the natural world began to shape human existence in profound ways, a monumental shift took place, one that would forever alter the course of history. The transition from hunting and gathering to agriculture wasn't just a change in how early humans sourced their food. It was a reimagining of their relationship with the land itself. This shift, often referred to as the agricultural revolution, marked the moment when humans stopped merely surviving off the earth and started shaping it to sustain life on an unprecedented scale. But this transformation wasn't just about planting seeds or taming animals. It was a deeply spiritual process, intertwined with rituals that celebrated the cycles of growth, the power of fertility, and the sacred bond between people and the soil. The journey to agriculture likely began with observation. Over countless generations, early humans noticed that certain plants grew in predictable patterns, and that seeds scattered near their campsites would sprout and flourish. This realization sparked a revolution. Instead of roaming in search of wild crops, they began to deliberately plant and tend to them. Grains like wheat and barley became staples, while legumes and vegetables added variety to their diets. But this wasn't just a matter of practicality, it was an act of partnership with nature. By cultivating the land, early humans were engaging in a dialogue with the earth, learning its rhythms and responding to its needs. Domestication of animals followed a similar path. Wolves became dogs, wild goats and sheep were tamed, and cattle were bred for milk, meat, and labor. These animals weren't just resources, they were companions in the journey of survival. The process of domestication required patience, observation, and a deep understanding of animal behavior. Over time, this partnership between humans and animals became a cornerstone of agricultural life, enabling societies to thrive in ways that had once seemed impossible. Yet, agriculture was never just about food production. It was steeped in rituals that celebrated the cycles of life and the forces that govern them. Planting and harvesting were not merely tasks, they were sacred acts often accompanied by ceremonies designed to ensure a bountiful yield. In many cultures, the first seeds of the season were sown with prayers or offerings, asking the earth to nurture the crops. Harvest festivals, marked by music, dance, and feasting, were a way of giving thanks for the abundance provided by the land. Fertility rituals, too, played a central role, symbolizing the renewal of life and the hope for future prosperity. These practices weren't just superstitions, they were expressions of gratitude and reverence, a recognition that agriculture was as much about spirit as it was about sustenance. The impact of agriculture on human societies was nothing short of transformative. With the ability to produce food in one place, people no longer needed to roam in search of resources. Permanent settlements began to emerge, growing into villages, towns, and eventually cities. This stability allowed populations to grow as families could settle in one place and raise children with greater security. The surplus of food also freed some individuals from the constant labor of farming, enabling them to specialize in other crafts: pottery, weaving, metalworking, and more. These developments laid the foundation for the complex societies we know today. But agriculture wasn't just a practical endeavor, it was a spiritual one. The act of cultivating the land required a deep connection to the earth, a willingness to work in harmony with its cycles. Early farmers saw themselves as stewards of the soil, responsible for nurturing it so that it could, in turn, nurture them. This relationship was reflected in the rituals they performed, the stories they told, and the way they understood their place in the world. Agriculture wasn't just about taming the land, it was about forging a partnership with it, one that would sustain humanity for millennia to come. As we reflect on this pivotal moment in human history, it's clear that the rituals of agriculture were about more than just survival. They were about meaning, about finding purpose in the act of creation and renewal. From the first seeds sown in fertile soil to the harvest festivals that celebrated the fruits of labor, agriculture became a way of life, a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of the human spirit. And as we'll see, this drive to cultivate and create would only grow stronger, shaping the world in ways that continue to unfold. The invention of pottery stands as one of the most transformative moments in human history, a leap forward that reshaped how prehistoric societies lived, worked, and expressed themselves. Before pottery, early humans relied on natural containers like gourds, shells, or woven baskets to store and carry their food. But with the discovery that clay could be shaped, hardened, and made durable, a world of new possibilities opened up. Pottery wasn't just a practical solution, it was a canvas for creativity, a vessel for ritual, and a symbol of human ingenuity. The process of creating pottery began with something as simple as clay, a material found in abundance across many regions. Early potters would gather the clay, often testing its texture and consistency to ensure it was suitable for shaping. Once prepared, the clay was meticulously molded by hand into the desired form. This process, known as coiling, involved rolling the clay into long ropes and layering them to build up the walls of the vessel. It required patience, precision, and a deep understanding of the material. Later, the invention of the potter's wheel revolutionized the craft, allowing for smoother, more symmetrical designs and faster production. But pottery wasn't just about function, it was also about beauty. Many early vessels were adorned with intricate patterns, etched into the surface using tools made of bone or stone. These designs weren't random, they often carried symbolic meaning, reflecting the beliefs, values, or stories of the community. Spirals might represent the cycles of life, while animal motifs could honor the creatures that sustained them. In some cases, pottery was even used in rituals, its designs acting as a form of communication with the spiritual world. A pot might be decorated with symbols meant to protect its contents or ensure a bountiful harvest, blending the practical with the sacred. The uses of pottery were as varied as the cultures that created it. Some vessels were designed for cooking, their sturdy walls able to withstand the heat of a fire. Others were used for storage, keeping grains, water, or other essentials safe from pests and spoilage. Pottery also played a role in trade, as beautifully crafted vessels became valuable commodities, exchanged between communities and even across great distances. Each pot told a story, not just of its purpose, but of the hands that shaped it and the traditions that inspired it. What's remarkable about pottery is how it bridged the gap between utility and art. A simple cooking pot might be adorned with patterns that transformed it into something more than just a tool. It became a work of art, a reflection of the maker's skill and imagination. This duality of practicality and creativity reveals something profound about early human societies. They didn't just create objects to meet their needs, they infused those objects with meaning, turning everyday items into expressions of identity and belief. As we look at these ancient vessels today, it's impossible not to marvel at the ingenuity behind them. Pottery wasn't just an invention, it was a revolution, one that allowed humans to store, cook, and trade in ways that had never been possible before. But more than that, it was a testament to the human spirit, a reminder that even the simplest materials can be transformed into something extraordinary. This blend of utility and artistry would continue to evolve, setting the stage for the innovations that would follow. And as we'll see, this drive to create and connect would only grow stronger, shaping the world in ways that continue to unfold. Long before written language or modern technology, music and dance served as some of the most powerful forms of human expression. For prehistoric societies, these weren't just forms of entertainment. They were vital tools for communication, celebration, and connection with the spiritual world. The rhythms of drums, the melodies of flutes, and the movements of bodies in dance created a universal language that transcended words, bringing people together in ways that were both deeply personal and profoundly communal. But what role did music and dance play in the rituals of early humans, and how did these practices shape the societies that embraced them? The roots of prehistoric music can be traced to the simplest of instruments, objects that early humans found in their environment and transformed into tools of sound. Drums, often made from hollowed logs or animal skins stretched over frames, provided the heartbeat of many rituals. Their deep, resonant tones could mimic the pulse of life itself, creating a rhythm that united participants in a shared experience. Flutes carved from bone or wood added melody to the mix, their haunting notes evoking the winds, rivers, and other natural forces that early humans revered. Rattles filled with seeds or pebbles added texture to the music, their shaking sounds symbolizing movement and change. These instruments weren't just tools, they were extensions of the human voice, amplifying emotions and intentions in ways that words alone could not. Music and dance were often inseparable from ritual. Imagine a group gathered around a fire, the flickering flames casting shadows as the beat of a drum begins to rise. The music builds and soon the dancers join in, their movements mirroring the rhythm of the drums, the swirl of the fire, or the flight of birds. These dances weren't random, they were carefully choreographed expressions of meaning, each step and gesture carrying symbolic weight. A dance might reenact a successful hunt, with participants mimicking the movements of animals and hunters. Another might celebrate the changing seasons with gestures that honored the sun, the moon, or the rain. In this way, dance became a form of storytelling, a way to preserve and pass down knowledge through the language of the body. But music and dance weren't just about celebration, they were also tools for invoking spiritual forces. Many rituals involved music as a way to communicate with the divine, whether to ask for blessings, seek guidance, or honor ancestors. The repetitive rhythms of drums and chants could induce trance-like states, allowing participants to transcend the physical world and connect with something greater. Dance, too, was seen as a bridge between the human and the spiritual, a way to embody the forces of nature or the spirits of the dead. In some cultures, specific dances were reserved for sacred occasions, performed only by certain individuals who held a special connection to the spiritual realm. Beyond their spiritual significance, music and dance played a crucial role in community bonding. These activities brought people together, fostering a sense of unity and shared purpose. A successful hunt, a bountiful harvest, or the arrival of a new season might all be marked by communal celebrations where music and dance served as the centerpiece. These gatherings weren't just about the event itself, they were about strengthening the ties that held the community together. Through music and dance, individuals could express their emotions, share their stories, and reaffirm their place within the group. What's fascinating is how universal these practices were. Across different cultures and continents, music and dance emerged as fundamental ways for humans to express themselves and connect with one another. Whether through the pounding of drums, the sway of bodies, or the rise and fall of melodies, these activities spoke a language that everyone could understand. They were more than just rituals, they were expressions of what it means to be human, to feel, to create, and to belong. As we reflect on these ancient practices, it's clear that music and dance were about more than just sound and movement. They were about connection to each other, to the natural world, and to the mysteries that lie beyond. These rituals remind us that even in the earliest days of human history, art was a vital part of life, a way to find meaning and joy in a world that could often be harsh and unpredictable. And as we'll see, this drive to create and connect would only grow stronger, shaping the course of human history in ways that continue to unfold. Among the many innovations of prehistoric societies, few have had as profound an impact as the invention of the wheel. It's hard to overstate just how revolutionary this simple yet ingenious creation was, transforming not only how early humans moved through the world, but also how they thought about progress itself. The wheel didn't just change transportation, it reshaped the very fabric of daily life, enabling new possibilities that would ripple across generations. But how did this groundbreaking invention come to be, and what can it tell us about the minds of those who first imagined it? The origins of the wheel are surprisingly humble. Early humans had long observed the way round objects like logs or stones could roll or be pushed with less effort than flat ones. Over time, this observation sparked an idea. What if they could harness that natural movement to make tasks easier? The first wheels were likely created by attaching rounded wooden discs to a fixed axle, allowing them to rotate freely. These early versions were used for tasks like moving heavy loads or shaping pottery, but their potential quickly became apparent. With a wheel, humans could transport goods over greater distances, build more efficient tools, and even create machines that amplified their strength. It was a leap forward that marked the dawn of a new era, but the wheel wasn't just a practical tool, it also held deep symbolic meaning. In many prehistoric cultures, the circular shape of the wheel came to represent cycles of life, death, and renewal. The turning motion mirrored the rhythms of nature, from the changing seasons to the rising and setting of the sun. In rituals, the wheel might be used as a metaphor for progress or continuity, a reminder that life moved forward in an endless loop. Some societies even incorporated wheels into their spiritual practices, crafting ceremonial objects or using them in dances to honor the cycles they represented. In this way, the wheel became more than just a physical object. It was a symbol of connection to the earth, to the cosmos, and to the flow of time itself. The impact of the wheel on daily life was nothing short of transformative. Before its invention, transporting heavy objects required immense effort, often involving teams of people dragging sledges or carrying loads on their backs. With the wheel, this burden was dramatically reduced. Carts and wagons made it possible to move goods more efficiently, opening up new opportunities for trade and communication between distant communities. The wheel also paved the way for more complex machinery, from water wheels that harnessed the power of rivers to grinding stones that made food preparation faster and easier. Each of these innovations built on the foundation laid by the wheel, expanding its influence far beyond its original purpose. Perhaps most importantly, the wheel represented something fundamental about human nature, the drive to innovate and improve. It wasn't just an invention, it was a testament to the power of creativity and problem-solving. The wheel showed that even the simplest ideas could have far-reaching consequences, inspiring future generations to push the boundaries of what was possible. It became a symbol of human ingenuity, a reminder that progress wasn't just about survival, it was about thriving, about finding new ways to shape the world to meet our needs. As we reflect on the legacy of the wheel, it's clear that its significance extends far beyond its physical form. It was a turning point in history, a moment when humans began to see the world not just as it was, but as it could be. And while the wheel itself has evolved over millennia, from wooden discs to rubber tires, from carts to cars, its essence remains the same. It's a symbol of movement, of change, and of the endless possibilities that lie ahead. In the story of human progress, the wheel stands as a reminder that even the smallest innovations can set the stage for something extraordinary. This drive to create and adapt didn't stop with the wheel, of course. It was only the beginning of a much larger journey, one that would see humans continue to push the limits of their imagination and reshape the world in ways they could hardly have imagined. And as we'll see, this spirit of innovation would only grow stronger, leading to even greater discoveries that continue to shape our lives today. In the face of illness or injury, prehistoric societies didn't just rely on luck or instinct. They turned to a powerful combination of practical knowledge and spiritual belief. Healing for these early communities was never just about treating the body. It was about addressing the mind, the spirit, and the unseen forces that governed life. Their methods, though rooted in the natural world, were deeply intertwined with rituals that sought to restore balance and harmony. This blend of science and spirituality laid the groundwork for what we now recognize as medicine, revealing a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. One of the most fascinating aspects of early healing practices was the use of natural remedies. Prehistoric healers had an intimate knowledge of their environment, identifying plants, minerals, and other substances that could alleviate pain, fight infection, or promote recovery. Herbs like chamomile and yarrow were used to soothe wounds, while willow bark, a natural source of salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin, was chewed or brewed to reduce fever and inflammation. Minerals like ochre were applied to skin conditions, and honey, with its natural antibacterial properties, became a go-to treatment for burns and infections. These remedies weren't chosen at random. They were the result of careful observation and experimentation, passed down through generations as a form of collective wisdom. But healing wasn't just about the physical application of herbs or minerals. It was also a spiritual act, often guided by figures like shamans or medicine men and women. These healers were more than just practitioners. They were bridges between the human and the divine, believed to possess the ability to communicate with spirits, ancestors, or otherworldly forces. When someone fell ill, it wasn't just seen as a physical ailment. It was often interpreted as a sign of imbalance, a disruption in the natural order. The shaman's role was to diagnose the root cause, whether it was a malevolent spirit, a broken taboo, or a curse, and then perform rituals to restore harmony. These rituals could take many forms. In some cases, the shaman might enter a trance, using rhythmic drumming, chanting, or hallucinogenic plants to journey into the spirit world and seek guidance. In others, they might perform ceremonies involving smoke, water, or sacred objects to cleanse the patient of negative energy. Offerings of food, flowers, or symbolic items were often made to appease the spirits, while dances or songs were used to invoke healing powers. These practices weren't just about curing the body, they were about addressing the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. What's remarkable is how these early healing rituals reveal a sophisticated understanding of health and well-being. Prehistoric societies recognized that illness wasn't just a physical phenomenon. It was deeply tied to emotions, relationships, and the environment. By combining practical remedies with spiritual rituals, they approached healing holistically, treating the person as part of a larger web of life. This perspective, though rooted in ancient beliefs, resonates with modern approaches to medicine that emphasize the importance of mental and emotional health alongside physical care. As we look back on these practices, it's clear that the rituals of healing were about more than just survival. They were expressions of hope, resilience, and a deep reverence for the forces that sustain life. From the careful selection of herbs to the powerful ceremonies led by shamans, these traditions remind us that healing is as much an art as it is a science. And while the tools and techniques of medicine have evolved over millennia, the essence of what it means to heal, to restore balance, to nurture life, and to connect with something greater remains unchanged. This blend of practicality and spirituality continues to shape the way we understand health, offering timeless lessons in the pursuit of well-being. Rising from the earth like silent sentinels, megalithic structures have captivated the human imagination for centuries. These massive stone monuments scattered across the globe stand as enduring symbols of prehistoric ingenuity and ambition. From the towering monoliths of Stonehenge to the intricate arrangements of Karnak in France, these structures were more than just feats of engineering. They were expressions of a deep connection to the cosmos, the land, and the mysteries of existence. But how did these ancient societies, without the aid of modern technology, manage to move and arrange such colossal stones? And what purpose did these monuments serve in their rituals and daily lives? The construction of megaliths was no small feat. Imagine the effort required to quarry, transport, and raise stones that weighed several tons. In the case of Stonehenge, the largest stones, known as sarsens, were sourced from quarries over 20 miles away. Early builders likely used a combination of wooden sledges, rollers, and ropes made from plant fibers to move these massive blocks. The process would have required immense coordination, with teams of workers pulling in unison, guided by leaders who understood the physics of leverage and balance. Once on site, the stones were carefully positioned, sometimes using ramps or scaffolding to lift them into place. The precision with which these stones were arranged speaks volumes about the skill and determination of the people who built them. But why go to such lengths? What drove these societies to invest so much time and energy into creating these monumental structures? One compelling theory is that megaliths served as astronomical observatories. The alignment of stones at sites like Stonehenge corresponds with key celestial events, such as the summer and winter solstices. These alignments suggest that early humans were keen observers of the sky, using the movements of the sun, moon, and stars to mark the passage of time and guide their agricultural practices. For a society dependent on the rhythms of nature, this knowledge would have been invaluable, turning the stones into calendars as much as monuments. Another theory points to the spiritual significance of these sites. Megaliths may have been sacred spaces used for rituals that connected communities to the divine. The circular arrangement of stones, often seen in structures like stone circles, could symbolize the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. Some sites contain evidence of cremated remains, suggesting they were used as burial grounds or places to honor ancestors. The sheer scale of these monuments would have made them awe-inspiring places, imbued with a sense of mystery and power that reinforced their role as centers of spiritual life. The construction of megaliths also reveals something profound about the societies that built them. These projects required not just physical labor, but a high degree of organization and cooperation. The ability to plan, coordinate, and execute such ambitious undertakings speaks to the complexity of prehistoric communities. They were capable of coming together for a shared purpose, pooling their resources and skills to create something greater than themselves. In this way, megaliths were not just monuments to the gods or the stars, they were monuments to human ambition and unity. As we stand before these ancient stones today, it's hard not to feel a sense of awe. They are a testament to the creativity, resilience, and vision of our ancestors, who dared to dream big and leave a lasting mark on the world. Whether as celestial calendars, sacred spaces, or symbols of communal effort, megaliths remind us of the enduring human desire to connect with something greater, to understand the universe and our place within it. And as we continue to uncover the secrets of these enigmatic structures, we are reminded that the story of human ingenuity is far from over. Long before the written word as we know it, early humans found ways to record their thoughts, experiences, and beliefs. The invention of writing didn't happen overnight. It began with simple marks, scratches, and symbols etched into the surfaces of caves, bones, and stones. These early forms of communication were the seeds of something revolutionary, a way to preserve knowledge and share stories across generations. Over time, these humble beginnings evolved into intricate systems of writing that would forever change the course of human history. The first steps toward writing can be traced back to cave paintings and carvings like those found in Lascaux or Chauvet. These weren't just artistic expressions, they were a form of visual storytelling. A handprint on a cave wall might symbolize presence or identity, while depictions of animals could record successful hunts or serve as a form of hunting magic. Over time, these images became more abstract, evolving into symbols that represented specific ideas or sounds. In Mesopotamia, for example, early pictographs, simple drawings of objects like grain, livestock, or tools, were used to keep track of trade and resources. These symbols, carved into clay tablets, were the precursors to cuneiform, one of the world's first writing systems. As societies grew more complex, so did their need for communication. Writing systems began to emerge independently in different parts of the world, from the hieroglyphs of ancient Egypt to the oracle bone script of early China. These systems allowed people to record not just practical information like inventories or laws, but also the stories and beliefs that defined their cultures. Myths, rituals, and histories could now be preserved in a way that oral traditions couldn't match. Imagine the power of being able to read the words of someone who lived thousands of years ago, their hopes, their fears, their understanding of the world. Writing made that possible. The role of writing in recording rituals and daily life was profound. In ancient Mesopotamia, for instance, clay tablets were used to document everything from temple offerings to legal disputes. In Egypt, hieroglyphs adorned the walls of tombs, ensuring that the deceased would be remembered and their journey to the afterlife guided. Writing became a way to honor the past, celebrate the present, and prepare for the future. It allowed societies to create a shared history, a collective memory that could be passed down through the ages. But writing didn't just preserve the past, it transformed it. By recording knowledge, humans could build on the discoveries of those who came before, accelerating progress in ways that would have been impossible otherwise. The development of agriculture, for example, was aided by written records of planting cycles and crop yields. Trade networks expanded as merchants used written contracts to formalize agreements. And as writing systems became more sophisticated, they gave rise to literature, philosophy, and science, laying the foundation for the intellectual achievements that followed. What's striking about the invention of writing is how it reflects the human desire to connect, not just with each other, but with the passage of time itself. Through symbols and stories, early humans found a way to reach across generations, leaving behind a legacy that continues to speak to us today. Writing wasn't just a tool for communication. It was a way of making sense of the world, of finding meaning in the chaos, and of ensuring that our stories would never be forgotten. And as we'll see, this drive to record and share would only grow stronger, shaping the world in ways that continue to unfold. For prehistoric societies, time wasn't just a series of days and nights, it was a rhythm, a pattern woven into the very fabric of existence. Without clocks or modern tools, early humans turned to the natural world to make sense of time's passage. The sun, moon, and stars became their guides, their movements marking the seasons, the years, and the cycles of life itself. From these observations, they created the first calendars tools not just for tracking time, but for understanding their place in the universe. But how did these early systems of timekeeping work, and what role did they play in the rituals and rhythms of daily life? The simplest calendars were based on the most obvious cycles: the rising and setting of the sun, the waxing and waning of the moon. The lunar cycle, lasting roughly 29.5 days, was one of the earliest ways to measure time. Many prehistoric societies used the moon to mark months, creating lunar calendars that guided everything from hunting expeditions to fertility rituals. The phases of the moon were more than just a practical tool. They were imbued with meaning, symbolizing growth, decay, and renewal. A full moon might signal a time for celebration, while a new moon could mark a period of reflection or preparation. But the moon wasn't the only celestial body that captured their attention. The sun's journey across the sky and its shifting position throughout the year became the foundation for solar calendars. Early humans noticed that the sun's path changed with the seasons, rising and setting at different points on the horizon. By observing these patterns, they could predict the arrival of spring, the warmth of summer, the harvest of autumn, and the cold of winter. This knowledge was crucial for agriculture, as it allowed them to plant and harvest crops at the right times, ensuring their survival. Solar calendars often became the backbone of agricultural societies, their rhythms dictating the ebb and flow of life. The stars, too, played a vital role in timekeeping. Constellations like Orion or the Pleiades served as celestial markers, their appearance in the night sky signaling key moments in the year. In some cultures, the rising of certain stars coincided with seasonal changes or important rituals. These celestial events weren't just practical markers, they were woven into the mythology and spirituality of the community. The stars were seen as ancestors, gods, or guides, their movements a reflection of the cosmic order. By aligning their lives with these celestial patterns, early humans found a way to connect with something greater than themselves. The creation of early calendars was more than a technical achievement, it was a deeply symbolic act. Timekeeping wasn't just about counting days, it was about understanding the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. Rituals often revolved around these cycles, from solstice celebrations that honored the sun's return to harvest festivals that gave thanks for the earth's bounty. These ceremonies weren't just practical, they were expressions of gratitude, reverence, and hope. they reinforced the idea that life was part of a larger, interconnected web, one that stretched from the earth to the heavens. The influence of these early timekeeping practices can still be seen today. The Gregorian calendar we use, for example, has its roots in ancient solar calendars, while the Islamic and Jewish calendars retain their lunar origins. But beyond these practical legacies, the rituals of timekeeping remind us of something profound: the human desire to find meaning in the passage of time. For prehistoric societies, tracking the seasons wasn't just about survival, it was about connection. It was a way of aligning themselves with the rhythms of nature, the cycles of the cosmos, and the mysteries of existence. As we reflect on these ancient practices, it's clear that timekeeping was about more than just measuring days. It was a way of understanding the world, of finding harmony in its patterns, and of honoring the forces that shaped life itself. From the first lunar calendars to the solstice rituals that still inspire awe, these traditions remind us that time is not just a series of moments. It's a story, one that connects us to the past, the present, and the infinite expanse of the cosmos. And as we'll see, this connection to time and the universe would only deepen, shaping the way humans understood their place in the world. As the first humans gazed out across vast stretches of water, they must have wondered what lay beyond the horizon. Rivers, lakes, and oceans were not just barriers, they were pathways waiting to be explored. The invention of boats marked a monumental leap in human history, transforming these bodies of water from obstacles into opportunities. With the creation of the first watercraft, prehistoric societies unlocked new possibilities for travel, trade, and cultural exchange, forever changing the way they interacted with the world around them. But how did these early boats come to be, and what role did they play in shaping the course of human progress? The earliest boats were likely simple rafts made from logs lashed together with vines or ropes. These rudimentary vessels were perfect for navigating calm rivers and shallow lakes, allowing people to transport goods, fish in deeper waters, or cross to new territories. Over time, these designs evolved. In regions where wood was scarce, early boat builders turned to other materials, such as reeds or animal hides. For example, the Inuit people crafted kayaks and umiaks using seal skins stretched over wooden frames, creating lightweight, durable boats perfectly suited to their icy environments. Each innovation was a response to the challenges and resources of the local landscape, showcasing the adaptability and creativity of prehistoric societies. Building a boat was more than just a practical endeavor, it was a ritual in itself. The selection of materials, the crafting process, and even the launching of the boat were often accompanied by ceremonies designed to ensure its safety and success. In many cultures, offerings were made to water spirits or deities before setting sail. These offerings might include food, flowers, or symbolic items, all meant to appease the spirits and secure a safe journey. The boat itself might be adorned with carvings or paintings, its design imbued with protective symbols or prayers. These rituals were a way of acknowledging the power and unpredictability of water, a reminder that even the most skilled boat builders were at the mercy of nature. The impact of boats on human society was profound. For the first time, people could travel greater distances, reaching new lands and encountering new cultures. Rivers became highways, connecting distant communities and facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and traditions. Coastal settlements flourished, their inhabitants using boats to fish, trade, and explore. The ability to navigate water opened up entirely new horizons, fostering a sense of curiosity and adventure that would drive human exploration for millennia to come. But boats were more than just tools for travel, they were symbols of connection. They brought people together, bridging the gaps between islands, continents, and cultures. A boat wasn't just a vessel, it was a floating piece of home, carrying not just goods but stories, beliefs, and dreams. Through boats, prehistoric societies began to see themselves as part of a larger world, one where the boundaries of land and sea were not limits but invitations to explore. As we reflect on the invention of boats, it's clear that they were about more than just movement. They were about possibility. They allowed humans to push beyond the familiar, to seek out new horizons and forge connections that would shape the course of history. From the first log raft to the sleek vessels that would later sail the seas, boats remind us of the enduring human spirit, one that looks to the horizon and wonders what's out there. This drive to explore and connect would only grow stronger, setting the stage for the next chapter in the story of human ingenuity. From the moment of birth to the final farewell, life is marked by transitions, moments that define who we are and where we belong. For prehistoric societies, these transitions weren't just personal milestones. They were communal events woven into the fabric of their cultures through rituals of initiation. These rites of passage, whether celebrating birth, marking the journey to adulthood, or honoring the dead, were more than ceremonies. They were acts of transformation, shaping not only the individual but the very identity of the community. Birth, as the first great transition, was often accompanied by rituals designed to welcome the new life into the world and ensure its protection. In many prehistoric cultures, the arrival of a child was seen as a sacred event, a moment when the community's future was renewed. Mothers and newborns might be secluded for a time, sheltered from harmful spirits or energies. Offerings of food, herbs, or symbolic objects were made to ancestral spirits or deities, asking for blessings and guidance. These rituals weren't just about the physical health of the child. They were about affirming the child's place within the community, binding them to their family, their ancestors, and the land itself. The transition to adulthood, perhaps the most widely recognized rite of passage, was often marked by tests of strength, skill, or endurance. In some societies, young men and women underwent initiation ceremonies that challenged them physically, mentally, and spiritually. These tests weren't just about proving readiness for adult responsibilities. They were about transformation. A young hunter, for example, might be required to track and kill an animal, not just as a demonstration of skill, but as a way of connecting with the spirit of the animal and the natural world. Similarly, young women might participate in rituals that honored fertility, weaving, or other skills central to their roles in the community. These ceremonies were often accompanied by feasts, dances, or storytelling, turning the initiation into a collective celebration of growth and belonging. Death, too, was a transition marked by profound rituals. For prehistoric societies, death wasn't an end but a passage to another state of being. The rituals surrounding death were designed to honor the deceased, comfort the living, and ensure the safe journey of the soul to the afterlife. Bodies might be buried with tools, ornaments, or food, items that would accompany the deceased on their journey. In some cultures, funeral rites included feasts or processions, turning mourning into a communal act of remembrance and solidarity. These practices weren't just about saying goodbye. They were about affirming the continuity of life, the enduring connection between the living and the dead. What's striking about these initiation rituals is how deeply they shaped individual and community identity. They weren't just personal milestones, they were collective experiences that reinforced the values, beliefs, and bonds of the group. Through these rituals, individuals learned their place within the community, their responsibilities, and their connection to the past and the future. At the same time, the community reaffirmed its shared identity, its sense of purpose, and its connection to the forces that sustained it. The influence of these ancient practices can still be felt today. Modern rites of passage, whether graduation ceremonies, weddings, or funerals, echo the traditions of our prehistoric ancestors. They remind us that life's transitions are not just personal events but moments of connection, growth, and belonging. In a world that often feels fragmented, these rituals continue to serve as anchors, helping us navigate the complexities of life with a sense of meaning and continuity. As we explore these ancient practices, it's clear that initiation rituals were about more than marking time. They were about transformation of the individual, the community, and the bonds that held them together. From the first breath of life to the final journey beyond, these rituals remind us that every transition is an opportunity to define who we are and where we belong. And as we'll see, this drive to connect and transform would continue to shape the way humans understand themselves and their place in the world. Weaving, one of humanity's earliest and most transformative inventions, was far more than a practical skill. It was an art form, a ritual, and a cultural cornerstone that wove together utility and beauty in ways that still resonate today. Long before the advent of modern textiles, prehistoric societies discovered that by intertwining fibers, they could create fabrics that were not only functional but also deeply meaningful. This breakthrough didn't just change how people clothed themselves, it reshaped their entire relationship with materials, patterns, and even identity. The journey of weaving began with the simplest of materials: plant fibers, animal hair, and even bark. Early weavers would spin these raw materials into threads using tools like spindles, a simple yet ingenious device that twisted fibers into yarn. Once the threads were ready, they were woven together on looms, often made from wood or bone. These early looms, though basic by today's standards, required remarkable skill and precision. The weaver had to carefully interlace the threads, creating a fabric that was both strong and flexible. It was a process that demanded patience, creativity, and an intimate understanding of the materials at hand. But weaving wasn't just about creating fabric, it was a deeply symbolic act. The patterns and colors used in textiles often carried specific meanings, reflecting the beliefs, values, or stories of the community. A geometric design might symbolize the cycles of nature, while a particular color could denote status or spirituality. In some cultures, weaving was even seen as a sacred activity, with specific rituals performed before beginning a project. Offerings might be made to the spirits of the fibers, or prayers said to ensure the success of the work. The act of weaving itself was sometimes compared to the act of creation, with the loom serving as a metaphor for the interconnectedness of life. Over time, weaving became a form of artistic expression, with textiles serving as canvases for creativity. Intricate patterns, dyed threads, and decorative embellishments turned everyday items into works of art. A simple blanket or tunic could tell a story, commemorate an event, or honor a deity. In some societies, textiles were even used as a form of currency or as gifts to seal alliances, highlighting their cultural and economic importance. The skills of weaving were often passed down through generations, with mothers teaching daughters and masters mentoring apprentices. This transmission of knowledge wasn't just about preserving techniques, it was about keeping traditions alive, ensuring that the stories and symbols woven into the fabric would endure. What's fascinating is how weaving connected the practical with the profound. A woven garment wasn't just something to wear, it was a statement, a piece of identity, and a link to the community. The threads themselves became metaphors for connection, whether between people, between generations, or between the human and the divine. Weaving was more than a craft, it was a way of making meaning, of finding beauty in the everyday, and of creating something that could outlast the weaver themselves. As we reflect on the invention of weaving, it's clear that this skill was about more than just fabric. It was about transformation of raw materials into art, of labor into ritual, and of individual threads into a cohesive whole. This blending of utility and beauty would continue to inspire, setting the stage for the next chapter in the story of human creativity. And as we'll see, this drive to weave together the practical and the poetic would only grow stronger, shaping the world in ways that continue to unfold. Warfare in prehistoric societies wasn't just about conflict. It was a complex interplay of strategy, survival, and symbolism. For these early communities, battles were fought not only with weapons but also with rituals, transforming warfare into a deeply ceremonial act. The clash of opposing groups wasn't merely a struggle for resources or territory. It was a reflection of their values, beliefs, and connections to the spiritual world. But how did these ancient societies approach the chaos of war, and what role did ceremony play in their preparations and outcomes? The weapons of prehistoric warfare were as varied as the cultures that wielded them. Spears, clubs, and bows were among the most common tools of battle, crafted with care and often imbued with symbolic meaning. A spear wasn't just a weapon, it was an extension of the warrior's strength and spirit, sometimes adorned with carvings or feathers to invoke protection or power. Bows, too, were more than mere tools. Their construction required skill and knowledge passed down through generations. The arrows, tipped with flint or obsidian, were precision instruments, designed not only to strike down enemies but also to honor the hunter's craft. These weapons weren't just practical, they were expressions of identity, reflecting the values and traditions of the communities that created them. Yet warfare wasn't just about the tools of battle, it was also about the rituals that surrounded it. Before a conflict, many societies engaged in elaborate ceremonies to prepare their warriors and seek favor from the gods. Dances, often performed in intricate patterns, were a way to summon courage and unity. The rhythmic pounding of drums and the chants of warriors could create a sense of shared purpose, binding the group together in a powerful display of solidarity. In some cultures, sacrifices were made animals, food, or even symbolic objects to appease the spirits and ensure victory. These rituals weren't just about preparing for the physical demands of war. They were about aligning the warriors with the forces of the unseen world, transforming the act of battle into something sacred. The aftermath of war was equally ritualized. Victorious groups might hold ceremonies to honor their fallen and celebrate their success, while defeated communities performed rites to mourn their losses and seek reconciliation with the spirits. Trophies taken from the battlefield, whether weapons, ornaments, or even body parts, were often used in rituals to symbolize victory and assert dominance. These practices weren't just about marking the end of a conflict. They were about restoring balance, ensuring that the violence of war didn't disrupt the harmony of the natural and spiritual worlds. Warfare also had a profound impact on the structure and identity of prehistoric societies. Conflict could forge alliances as neighboring groups banded together to face a common threat. It could also lead to the rise of leaders as skilled warriors gained status and influence within their communities. The spoils of war, whether land, resources, or captives, could transform the fortunes of a group, shaping its trajectory for generations. Yet warfare was also a source of instability, capable of destroying communities and upending the social order. It was a double-edged sword, both destructive and transformative, shaping the course of human history in ways that were as unpredictable as they were profound. As we examine the rituals of warfare, it's clear that these ancient practices were about more than just survival. They were about meaning, about finding purpose in the chaos of conflict and forging connections that transcended the battlefield. From the weapons crafted with care to the ceremonies that honored the fallen, warfare was a reflection of the human spirit, a testament to our capacity for both destruction and creation. And as we'll see, this duality of violence and transformation would continue to shape the way humans navigate the challenges of their world. The discovery of metalworking stands as one of the most transformative moments in human history, a leap forward that reshaped not only tools and weapons but also the very fabric of society. Before metal, tools were crafted from stone, bone, or wood, materials that were effective but limited in their potential. Then came the realization that certain rocks, when heated, could yield something extraordinary: metal. This breakthrough didn't just change how humans created, it changed how they thought, marking the dawn of a new era, the Bronze Age. The journey to metalworking began with copper, one of the first metals humans learned to use. Early smiths discovered that heating copper ore in a fire could separate the metal from the surrounding rock, a process known as smelting. This wasn't just a technical achievement, it was a revelation. For the first time, humans could extract a material that was both durable and malleable, capable of being shaped into tools, ornaments, or weapons. The process required immense skill and precision, as the smith had to control the temperature of the fire, often using bellows to intensify the heat. The result was a glowing, molten metal that could be poured into molds or hammered into shape, creating objects that were stronger and more versatile than anything made from stone. But metalworking wasn't just a practical endeavor, it was steeped in ritual and symbolism. The fires used for smelting were often seen as sacred, their flames representing the transformative power of creation. In many cultures, the act of working with metal was accompanied by ceremonies designed to honor the spirits of the earth and fire. Offerings might be made to these spirits, while symbols or prayers were etched into the tools or weapons being crafted. The smith, often regarded as a figure of great importance, was seen as a mediator between the physical and spiritual worlds, someone who could harness the power of the elements to create something new. The transition from copper to bronze marked another revolutionary step. By combining copper with tin, early metalworkers created bronze, a material that was harder, more durable, and better suited for a wide range of uses. This innovation didn't just improve tools and weapons, it transformed entire societies. Bronze swords and armor gave warriors a decisive advantage, while bronze tools made farming, construction, and craftsmanship more efficient. The ability to create and trade bronze goods also fostered connections between distant communities, as tin and copper were often sourced from different regions. This exchange of materials and ideas laid the groundwork for the complex trade networks that would later define civilizations. What's remarkable about metalworking is how it blended science and art. The process of smelting and shaping metal required a deep understanding of chemistry and physics, yet it also demanded creativity and vision. A bronze sword wasn't just a weapon, it was a work of art, its blade often adorned with intricate patterns or inscriptions. Similarly, bronze ornaments and sculptures reflected the cultural values and aesthetics of the societies that created them. This fusion of practicality and beauty reveals something profound about human ingenuity, the drive to not only solve problems but to do so with elegance and meaning. The impact of metalworking extended far beyond the tools and objects it produced. It marked a shift in how humans interacted with their environment, transforming raw materials into something entirely new. This ability to manipulate the natural world laid the foundation for future innovations, from the Iron Age to the Industrial Revolution and beyond. Metalworking wasn't just an invention, it was a mindset, a way of thinking that continues to shape our world today. As we reflect on this pivotal moment in history, it's clear that metalworking was about more than just tools or weapons. It was a testament to the human spirit, a blend of curiosity, creativity, and resilience that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. From the first copper ornaments to the bronze masterpieces that defined an age, this craft reminds us that innovation is as much about imagination as it is about skill. And as we'll see, this drive to create and transform would only grow stronger, setting the stage for even greater leaps in human progress. The exchange of goods and ideas is as old as humanity itself, but in prehistoric societies, trade was far more than a simple transaction. It was a ritual, a celebration of connection, and a bridge between worlds. Long before currencies or markets existed, early humans discovered that by trading, they could not only acquire what they needed, but also forge relationships with distant communities. These exchanges weren't just about survival, they were about expanding horizons, sharing knowledge, and weaving a web of interdependence that stretched across vast distances. The earliest forms of trade likely began as simple barter systems, where goods were exchanged directly for other goods. Picture a hunter trading a freshly caught deer for a bundle of flint tools, or a gatherer swapping rare herbs for a beautifully crafted clay pot. These transactions were based on mutual need and trust, with both parties determining the value of their goods through negotiation. Over time, these informal exchanges evolved into more structured systems with certain items, like obsidian, salt, or amber, becoming highly sought-after commodities. These materials, often sourced from specific regions, were transported along established trade routes that connected far-flung communities. Rivers, coastlines, and mountain passes became the highways of the ancient world, facilitating the movement of goods and people. But trade wasn't just a practical endeavor, it was steeped in ritual and meaning. Before embarking on a trading journey, individuals or groups might perform ceremonies to ensure safe passage and successful exchanges. Offerings could be made to spirits or deities, asking for protection against the dangers of travel, wild animals, harsh weather, or rival groups. The act of trading itself was often accompanied by rituals designed to establish trust and goodwill. In some cultures, oaths were sworn, binding both parties to honor the terms of the exchange. A handshake, a shared meal, or a symbolic gift might seal the deal, transforming a simple transaction into a moment of connection and respect. These rituals weren't just about ensuring fairness, they were about recognizing the deeper significance of trade. By exchanging goods, early humans were also exchanging ideas, stories, and culture. A beautifully crafted tool might carry with it the techniques and traditions of its maker, while a piece of jewelry could reflect the artistic sensibilities of a distant community. Trade became a way to share knowledge, from new farming techniques to innovative ways of crafting or building. It was a form of communication, one that transcended language and brought people together in unexpected ways. The impact of trade on prehistoric societies was profound. It fostered connections between groups that might otherwise have remained isolated, creating networks of interdependence that spanned continents. A community living near a flint quarry, for example, could trade its prized stone for obsidian from a volcanic region, creating a flow of resources that benefited both sides. These connections weren't just economic, they were cultural. Through trade, communities learned about each other's customs, beliefs, and ways of life, enriching their own traditions in the process. What's remarkable is how these early trade networks laid the groundwork for the complex systems we rely on today. The idea of exchanging goods for mutual benefit, of building relationships through shared interests, and of connecting distant worlds through trade. These principles remain at the heart of how we interact with one another. From the first bartered flint tools to the bustling markets of ancient cities, trade has always been about more than just goods. It's been about connection, growth, and the endless possibilities that come from reaching out to others. As we reflect on these ancient practices, it's clear that trade was a bridge, not just between people but between worlds. It brought together distant lands, diverse cultures, and different ways of thinking, creating a tapestry of human experience that continues to evolve. This drive to connect, to exchange, and to grow would only deepen, setting the stage for the next chapter in the story of human ingenuity. The invention of the plow stands as one of the most transformative moments in human history, a breakthrough that didn't just change how we farmed but how we lived. Before the plow, agriculture was a labor-intensive process, relying on simple tools like digging sticks or hoes to break up the soil. These methods worked, but they were slow, backbreaking, and limited in scale. Then came the plow, a tool so powerful and efficient that it revolutionized food production, turning small plots of land into vast fields capable of feeding growing populations. But the plow was more than just a farming implement. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, a testament to our ability to shape the world around us. The development of the plow began with a simple idea, using animal power to do the work that human hands could not. Early versions, known as ard plows, were little more than wooden frames with a pointed tip designed to scratch the surface of the soil. Drawn by oxen or other draft animals, these plows could break up the earth far more effectively than a hoe or digging stick. Over time, the design evolved. Metal tips replaced wooden ones, making the plow more durable and efficient. The addition of a moldboard, a curved blade that turned the soil, allowed for deeper plowing, creating richer, more fertile fields. This innovation didn't just make farming easier, it made it more productive, enabling farmers to grow more food on less land. But the plow wasn't just a practical tool, it was steeped in ritual and meaning. For many prehistoric societies, plowing was more than a chore. It was a sacred act, a way of connecting with the earth and ensuring its fertility. Before the first furrow was dug, farmers might perform ceremonies to bless the soil, asking for a bountiful harvest. Offerings of seeds, grains, or even small figurines could be buried in the field as a way of honoring the spirits of the land. In some cultures, the plow itself was seen as a symbol of life and renewal, its movement through the soil mirroring the cycles of nature. These rituals weren't just superstitions, they were expressions of gratitude and respect, a way of acknowledging the delicate balance between humans and the earth. The impact of the plow on human society was profound. With more efficient farming methods, communities could produce surplus food, freeing people from the constant struggle to feed themselves. This surplus allowed populations to grow, leading to the rise of villages, towns, and eventually cities. The plow also enabled farmers to cultivate larger areas of land, supporting more complex societies and fostering the development of trade, crafts, and governance. In many ways, the plow laid the foundation for civilization itself, turning scattered communities into interconnected networks of people, goods, and ideas. What's remarkable about the plow is how it represents human mastery over the land. For the first time, people weren't just working with the soil, they were shaping it, turning it into a source of abundance and prosperity. This newfound control over the environment marked a turning point in human history, one that would set the stage for even greater innovations. The plow wasn't just a tool, it was a symbol of progress, a reminder that even the most humble inventions can transform the world. As we reflect on this pivotal moment, it's clear that the plow was about more than just farming. It was about possibility, about the power of human creativity to overcome challenges and create new opportunities. From its humble beginnings to its role in shaping the course of civilization, the plow reminds us that progress is built on the foundation of ingenuity and determination. And as we'll see, this drive to innovate and adapt would only grow stronger, leading to even greater discoveries that continue to shape our lives today. The echoes of prehistoric societies are all around us, woven into the fabric of our modern world in ways we might not even realize. From the tools we use to the rituals we cherish, the legacy of these ancient communities is a testament to human resilience and creativity. Their ingenious inventions like the wheel, the plow, or the first woven fabrics laid the groundwork for the technologies we rely on today. But it's not just their innovations that endure, it's the spirit behind them. The rituals they performed, the stories they told, and the connections they forged continue to shape how we live, think, and create. Take, for example, the way prehistoric societies honored the cycles of nature. Their solstice celebrations, harvest festivals, and rites of passage were more than just ceremonies. They were acts of meaning-making, ways of finding purpose in the rhythms of life. Today, we still mark the changing seasons, celebrate milestones, and gather in community, carrying forward these ancient traditions in new forms. the rituals of our ancestors remind us that even in a fast-paced modern world, there's value in pausing to reflect, to connect, and to honor the forces that sustain us. Their inventions, too, have left an indelible mark. The wheel, once a revolutionary tool for transporting goods, has evolved into the engines and machines that power our lives. The plow, which transformed agriculture and allowed civilizations to flourish, paved the way for the global food systems we depend on today. Even the simple act of weaving, once a way to create clothing and shelter, has inspired the textiles and technologies that clothe and protect us now. These breakthroughs weren't just practical, they were expressions of human ingenuity, a drive to solve problems and improve life that continues to define us. But perhaps the most profound legacy of prehistoric societies is their ability to adapt and thrive in the face of uncertainty. They didn't just survive, they created meaning, built communities, and pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Their rituals and inventions were born out of necessity, but they were also acts of hope, a belief that through creativity and connection, we can shape a better future. This enduring spirit of resilience and innovation is something we carry with us, even if we don't always recognize it. Understanding our ancestors isn't just about looking back, it's about seeing ourselves in a new light. Their stories remind us that we are part of a long, unbroken chain of human creativity and resilience. By exploring their rituals and inventions, we gain a deeper appreciation for the challenges they faced and the solutions they crafted. We see that the struggles and triumphs of the past are not so different from our own, and that the human drive to create, connect, and endure is as strong today as it was thousands of years ago. As we reflect on this rich legacy, it's clear that the rituals and inventions of prehistoric societies are more than just historical footnotes. They are the roots of who we are. They remind us that even in the face of uncertainty, we have the power to adapt, to innovate, and to find meaning in the world around us. And as we prepare to tie everything together in our final section, we'll explore how these ancient lessons can inspire us to navigate the challenges of our own time, carrying forward the spirit of our ancestors into the future. As we come to the end of this journey through the forgotten rituals and ingenious inventions of prehistoric societies, it's impossible not to be struck by the sheer brilliance and resilience of our ancestors. From the mastery of fire to the creation of the wheel, from the sacred rituals of hunting to the